Where's my fishing pole? Why didn't it work? Ooh. No! No! Fuck. How do I get out of here? There we go. Hi, Stan. How are you? I'm sorry you're feeling sick. My throat's kind of hurting. Oops, I wasted a pole ball. It's going good. Doing alright. Thank you. It's a little bit more blue than I wanted it, but it'll fade. Need 2 more fling organs. Yay, my research is complete. Hello, Jake. How are you? Thank you.
Cat loved it so much he didn't want to come home. Skipper was well cared for in a wonderful home environment, which is why we choose Rover. Brave.
Hello everybody, it is Ebontis, and I've been playing Palworld 1.0. It's fantastic, I've learned a lot, and my goal by the end of this video is to hope your base doesn't look like the mess that mine is, and hopefully you hit the ground running from the start. Now, if you played 2 years ago, there's been quite a few changes, so you're still bound to learn something from this video, but this is my ultimate beginner's guide, so it is going to be a lot of starting stuff. There will be future videos, and there's also timestamps all throughout the video, so you can jump to sections that you find more important, whatever you find instructional, and maybe something you just need a refresher on. So let's jump into Palworld 1.0, how to get started. So before we get to bases and stuff like that, I do want to cover a couple of options. Mostly in game settings. Keyboard or control pad, same thing. Single button press for hold interactions. Used to, it had to be you could walk up to a bench and you say you need to craft a weapon. You have to hold the button the entire time you're crafting. And you're like, my thumb's getting tired, my fingers getting tired, whatever. You don't have to do that. Now you can just hit the button once, set the controller down, walk away, go grab a sip of water, come back, and your thing will be built. It's really, really, really nice. Another thing is when it comes to controls, you just want to make sure you understand what your auto run is. That just allows you to keep going in a certain direction. Maybe you just have some far travel to go across water or something. You want to step away and come back. It's just a nice feature to not have to like hold run the entire time. So that's a good one to use. You're on PC, I'm not sure if console has this. Field of view is nice to mess with. Some people don't like the fisheye, but if you want more like visual information around you, it's nice to have it. So that's your basic settings. As for in-game, before we go too far, let's talk about stats. Some don't matter. Work speed, don't ever put anything in here because your pal should be doing your work for you. Defense, your armor gives that to you. Attack, it scales so poorly that until you get to absolutely in-game, you shouldn't put anything into this. As you're leveling up, early on your weight starts at 300. You want to work your way up to about 1,000. It's 50 per. My advice is for every, like, 4 stat, like when you get up to 4 stat points, put 4 in here. Then your next 2, put them in stamina. You eventually want to try and get this up to 200. After that, then you can work on getting some health. Now, you'll get some potions whenever you do a dungeon run. When you check those potions at the end, just use them straight away, and you'll get whatever stat they go towards. Sometimes it will be for attack or work speed. It's not going to hurt for those to go up because they're free from a potion, but don't put your stats in there. It's not worth it. Eventually, you'll max these things out at some crazy number, but for the longest time, weight is good to get up to 1,000. Then after a while, you'll find some pals that make things weigh a little less, which means your weight isn't quite as effective. Also, you can fly around, makes things a little quicker. Then things like stamina are more important, so you can glide farther, climb farther, whatever it may be. And then as you start to fight tougher enemies, health can be an important factor too, depending on how much of a beating you're taking. But attack does not scale very well at all, so save that for endgame, and work speed is pointless. Your pal should do it all for you. Now, my hope is that your base looks a lot better than mine. Mine is an absolute nightmare of potential support pylons and some hope of, like, usable surfaces. You really just want a big, flat piece of land. Now, early on, right now, where I'm at, like from where the Hill of Beginnings is, just walk down the hill and go to this place right here. It's literally negative 231, negative 486, somewhere right in this region, and it's a great flat piece of land that has stone, trees, red berries for food, and also 1 iron spot that will, you know, be kind of returning even if you farm it out. As long as you don't build over any of these resources, they will continue to spawn over time. One thing I do recommend, though, at the top of this waterfall, this little river area, go back there by the grate. There's a piece of lore in a chest, just a quick little boost for you. But the best place I can recommend to put your base is literally where I have this thing. So right now at this like x-axis between like the ore and the rock and this tree, like right straight through there, or that would be, I would say, y-axis, and then the x-axis literally between the tree and the bridge, pretty much dead between. And the reason I say put that there is because you can see the blue circle when I get up high. And what this encompasses is a couple of the palladium or paldium little ore that you can get. All of these resources over here gives you a big flat working space. And then you've got this ramp that you can mess with like chests or pal beds, whatever it may be. You can put some small little stuff up there that you don't need jamming everything up, and you're going to have a pretty good amount of space to work with. So this is a really good spot. And also, you don't want to be right next to a fast travel, because a fast travel's, your base is a fast travel. So it kind of works to be in between these 3 spots and be able to use the like warping around a little bit better as well. So that's my recommendation for your first base. Also, in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to have a quest. The original quest is going to tell you to, you know, get your first fast travel point, the little eagle statue, talk to the person at the campfire. Then you need to pick up some wood, pick up some stone, make yourself a little crafting bench. Once you've got a crafting bench, then it's going to tell you to do a couple of other things, and eventually you need to build a PAL box. My advice is when you get an axe, go chop down some trees and be able to build yourself some foundations here. Once the foundations are flat and you've got a really good level surface to work on, even a couple pieces to start, you can expand out as you go. That way, when you start all your building, you're starting on ultra flat ground, makes your life so much simpler. So before you really start building and setting your base up, I would just chop down like 2 or 3 trees. That way you've got a lot of foundations. And as you're chopping down trees, you might, you know, use your axe on a couple of land balls or something like that, whatever it may be. If you find some pal spheres, capture a couple. Big thing is your technology tree is going to get you to this second row when you level up. This is where you're going to get your wooden foundations, also your POW box, your spheres, your campfire, your wooden chest. So this is where I would put your base. This is how I would orient it. And then also make sure you put it on foundations. Going to give you a nice flat level ground to work on. Just remember, if you mine all of this stone and you build foundations over it, it will not come back. So don't build over the resources if you want them there. That's kind of an important factor. Now, when it comes to your early pals, the game is going to make you get land balls. They are good for basically handiwork. If you need to build things at your workbench, they're pretty good at that. You can also put them in a ranch for basically to start producing wool. It'll just pop out on the ground. One of your best early pals is going to be Kativa. It's the cat one. This guy right here. Kativa is going to be really good because it mines, also does handiwork and a couple of other things. We come up here to the top. Kativa, I think, is number 2. Transporting, moving stuff around. So as you like get somebody who's mining, they can also take it to chests and stuff like that. So Kativa is a really good one, and you should have one of those in your party because early on, having one Kativa in your party gives you 100 extra capacity. So if you like run down and you pick up a whole bunch of stuff, you can hold a little bit more due to them. Another one you're going to need is Pupperatti. Pupperai? Probably saying this wrong every time. This guy is a new one for 1.0 and actually allows for logging or lumberjack. Basically, they chop down trees. So if you put one of those in your base, they're going to go around and chop down all the trees for you, so you have easy access to wood for all of your early needs. They're definitely one you need in your base. Eventually, you're also going to need to do planting, gathering, and watering. So that's going to take your grass ones, so like Gumas. Literally only plants. Generally, the more versatile your pals are, the better off you're going to be. So having one that only plants is a place to start, but you can quickly replace them once we get a little farther down. And then also you need, like, Kativa can probably do gathering and stuff like that, but one that you'll be looking for is something that can water the plants. So if it can plant it, something else needs to water it, and then different types can gather it. Pinglet. This is your first one right here who can do watering, and that's a good addition. And you can really get your base going all except fire with this opening area. Fire is literally just over this hill. There's going to be a little green effigy in here. Pick it up. That's going to be your first one. And then there's Gumas through here. So that's basically everything so far for basics. So if we roll down, Kativa's got handiwork. It can gather, so it can take care of the other piece of the farming, like the farming. It can mine, so it can break down the ore. And then you've also got your watering covered, and your planting is kind of the specific one. Pupperai is going to handle the trees. Now, when you come up here, you've got another set that are going to be kind of important. So I've basically come down from my base, worked down the trail, gone through the ruins, up the hill, and popped out these ruins. Over here, you got some other options. Foxsparks. You need at least one of these for sure. One, they have a good actual like harness ability. So if you get their harness, you can kind of hold on to them and cause them to shoot fire. They're pretty powerful. You can use those actually for pretty good attacks, but also for cooking food and also for smelting ore. They're your first kindling one. So there you are going to need somebody for fire at your base. They're going to be one to do it. Vixie is another one. Looks like a big old puffy-tailed squirrel. Vixie you want to capture and put in a ranch. What that's going to do is it's going to allow Vixie to just sit there and produce things like pal spheres and arrows, and it's kind of fantastic. So the ranches are really, really good. Basically what it is, when you get the ranch unlocked, not too far down here, it's raising sheep and fowl-like pals. Basically, if you put any pal there, it's going to produce whatever item they're related to. So if you come here and you filter by farming, you can see the lamb ball will make wool, chickpeas will make eggs, Vixie will make random stuff, Grimace, again, wool, Depresso, he's a nighttime one, makes venom glands. You've got Flame Bell and any of these fire ones, they're going to make flame organs. So Capricity, you'll see one wandering around that's like level 16. We'll just sit there and make red berries at the ranch. So if you need food for your pals, just plop this one at a ranch and you're good. Also does decent planting, so it's kind of a nice multitasker. Anything water is going to make aquapal fluids. You've got Cognito making bones. You've got Valet making various seeds. Bee-Guard is going to make honey. See the point? Ranches are really, really, really important, and it's kind of one of those things you want to take the most of. Another one right down here is going to be the Krojiro. Basically, that's going to be another little more functional when it comes to like planting and gathering type stuff. He's going to do watering, handiwork, gathering, and transporting. So literally the only thing he won't do is planting, but his multifunction capacity means he can gather it, he can pick it up and move it, and he can water it. The only thing else that needs to happen is planting. So he's got a little more multitasking going on. And then after that, you've got Clovey. That's going to be another one who's going to be planting more. If we come up here, Clovey is pretty early. Clovey's going to be planting and gathering, so a little mix of both. That's why Gumoss doing literally just one thing is pretty limiting. Once you kind of get over this hill, you'll at least have some stuff that can multitask. Herbill's going to be something similar. Where'd he go? Herbill can do planting, gathering, and transporting. Almost everything except watering. So, like, most are going to be better than just nothing. And if you keep following up here to where I am, so to come out of your ruins, go up here and see the big tower, just walk over here and you're going to get your next fast travel point. One of your best early mounts is going to be the Ethrideer. If you get one of these things captured, probably going to need a Megasphere, the green one, to get it. It's going to be a really nice running mount, or the wolf, depending on which one you run into first. There's a dire wolf, and there's the deer. Both are pretty solid for starting mounts. And this is your first kind of actual tower boss fight that you're going to have. And this is the early area. This is also a dungeon. So you'll see the dungeon kind of has this little turquoise glow as you get up close. These are the dungeons I said that drop the potions that are going to up your stats. It's a level 13 boss on the inside. Dungeons are pretty cool. There's a lot of treasure in there, hidden chest. If rooms look really vertical, there's probably quite a bit of stuff in there. Once you get something like a grapple hook, it's going to be a lot easier to get around. So that's a good thing as well. And that covers most of your early pals. Literally from the front, down the trail, ruins pop out here. And once again, right in this area, maybe over in these couple areas, and over here, you'll find everything you need to get all of your jobs going back at your base. So that should cover just about every early pal that you need and what kind of varieties that you can go for from there. There's probably also going to be boars that are around. Those are rush ores. Those are good for mining, and you can actually mount those. If you want cows for milk, you can see these over here. Here's the Dire Howl. Dire Howl's pretty quick mount, so if you can capture a Dire Howl, that one might actually be faster than the deer. So these are over here as well. And you can just kind of explore. You don't have to go that far. Nothing's going to be really far over level 10. So if you get a little bit of armor, a weapon, and a couple pals that are going to keep you alive, you can run around and pick up a whole bunch of stuff. Daydreams are out at nighttime. They're a specific one I would look for, so you're going to want to go out at night. Daydreams will do something specific because what they will do is they will attack. One, like you can see right now, if I get off my mount, I have him out. But if I had four other, like if I had my Ragnarok and 4 Daydreams, my Ragnarok and 4 Daydreams would all be out right now defending me. And the nice thing about the Daydreams is their bullets will not reduce a target below 1 health. When it comes to capturing pals, the lower the health, the easier it is to capture. So if you have 4 Daydreams walking around, nuking people, and they're just leaving them at 1 health, then you can just throw Pal Spheres and capture them much easier than trying to like get them almost low and then possibly killing them. Daydreams are really great for early capturing, so go out on a night run, capture a few Daydreams, get like 3 of them in your party, and you're going to be in pretty good shape. If your party consists of a like Kativa for more weight capacity, 3 Daydreams, and then 1 other one that you either have for a fly, like a riding mount early on, you're going to be like way ahead of the game, I promise you. Because like right now I have a Mercy hit on, so I can just shoot this guy, and I can take him down to 1 health. Since I'm not actually riding my mount, then it won't have a Mercy hit. But if I'm riding the mount, then I can send whatever I want at it. Well, of course, I'm too far away. Since I'm riding the mount now, it will like use the actual Mercy hit. So it won't kill it. Unless it's on fire, then it might burn. But it was down to literally 1 health. But I probably would 1-hit it otherwise. And this is why I would tell you it's nice to capture all 5, and I'll cover that in a second. But later on, you're going to be so powerful, you can just walk up and capture stuff without really trying. And it really is kind of nice. So you can see all those are Mercy hits, didn't kill it, and then capture is really easy. So I do want to cover something about capture while I'm here. When it comes to capturing pals, when you hold Q, you'll hover over them. You're going to see back bonus. I get a bonus to capture percentage when I'm shooting from behind. If you hit them basically square in the head, you're going to get a critical bonus, so aim for the head when you can. And then anybody you're aiming at is going to give you a captured 5 of 5 unless you've never seen them before. Every pal, when you capture 5 of them, is going to give you this little effigy. And then when you go back to your base, you're eventually going to build a PAL statue. That's where you can turn in all those effigies, and there's a bunch of different types, and they're going to give you different benefits like swimming or movement speed or capture percentage. All of those are going to be all over the place. But every PAL that you capture 5 of the same type is going to give you one of those types of effigies, and that's going to be really beneficial. But being able to hold Q and see that information is actually really nice, because before you throw it, you can be like, is this going to be risky or is it not? If I go up to a Megasphere, you can see that that capture rate goes up. Even though he's full health and he's level 5, you can see that capture rate goes higher. If I go to a Gigasphere, it's even higher. Hypersphere, it's basically guaranteed at the top. But that's a good way to see before you throw, especially your limited spheres that you've got, if it's worth it, if you've got them at low enough health, that kind of thing. So
I was eating
spheres,
granola.
you'll learn to kind of have plenty of them and learn that even if
the
it's a low
follow-
percentage, sometimes it's going to give it to you. But having that information, going for a back shot or a head critical, is really going to help out.
You had an idea. It started yesterday. What was it? Right. Claude remembered it. Your idea was hungry. Hungry for answers and connections. Claude helped you look, reading alongside you. Turn this into what? A deck. Spreadsheets. Documents. The tedious parts handled. Your idea stopped being just words
And eventually you're going to get some items that are going to be like actual sphere modules. So I've got a range one and a capture strength from one of these accessories, and this thing just lives in my inventory free and helps me out. Those are accessories you'll be able to unlock over time. So that covers your early pals and catching them and quite a bit of stuff in there. All right, how to fish. You're going to get different tiers of fishing rods, and you're going to need some kind of bait. The better the fishing rod and the better the bait, the better your chance at actually catching the fish. And what I mean is it basically allows the scale of this thing to be manageable, but there's also like expert ones I can't even get to yet. But the way it is, you cast it, you wait for the exclamation points, you click, and then you need to keep the bar within the actual fish. So you need to reel it, but only at the time. So it's like this constant little clicking I'm doing to basically try and keep that little green bar around the fish. And this is a beginner one, he doesn't move as much, but the better the loot, like the better the fishing reel and rod that you've got, and also the better the bait that you have, the easier that process will be. I tried an intermediate one that was like a shiny, and he was absolutely a pain in the butt to catch. So just know you got to be prepared for what you're going for, and you better, if you see a shiny one, bring the best bait and rod and reel that you've got. Otherwise, it's probably going to be really, really difficult to catch. Okay, so I think I mentioned it before, but as I said, kind of if you go past the tower up here, you're going to see these dire howls. These wolves are pretty solid, like really solid first ground mount. Getting around, running around on ground, not a bad way to go. So that should cover you. The deer also kind of works, but the dire howl is probably going to be faster. Once you get up to this territory that's like all kind of red leaves and red kind of dirt, you're going to see Rushore. That's technically a ground mount, but you know, not always what I would call the fastest. Does do some mining though if you need something for mining. It's not a bad option. But if you head towards this desolate church area, you're likely to see a Nightwing, and it's going to be one of your first flying mounts, and it's just a game changer when you can get your first flyer, because it really, really does open stuff up. Okay, I did want to show you I'm not crazy. Literally right here by this rock kind of in the middle, this is a Nightwing. Not all that fast, but it is flying, and it just lets you get you places ground mounts aren't going to do. So make sure you pick up a Nightwing as your early ones. There's a Grey Claw that's also a pretty good option. Both are a decent place to start, depends on what you bump into first. But if you just go north from the tower up to kind of where I am, you'll see the Nightwing, and it's low enough level that you can get it pretty early. All right, now let me go to Chillette. So Chillette is level 11, and one of the very early bosses that you absolutely need to capture, because as you notice when I zoom out on the map, there's a lot of water, and at some point even flying mounts run out of gas. So the flying mounts are nice to be able to like cross the gap and even like go under here and potentially pick up this like massive egg that's under this bridge, which is kind of wild. That's a huge egg, so that'll turn into something. But then if you come up here, Chillette's going to be out here in the open. Not crazy, not a ton of health. And again, when I was talking about the Daydreams, just have like 3 of those things out, shoot a couple arrows, and he's probably going to go down pretty quick. The thing to know about Chillette is the fact that he is... Like, see how easy I can kind of take him down? And then if I get off my mount, then I get my Chillette, I can ride him, and he's captured. I probably need to get a few more of him anyway. So he's actually a pretty decent ground mount. He's got a decent sprint speed, but he's got one of the fastest water speeds in the entire game. Now, why is that so important? As I said, the map is full of just a ton of, just a metric ton of water everywhere. And as you go around, it's kind of important to be able to get around quickly without having to depend on your flying mount early. So like when you get out here, you're like, where do I want to go? Well, pick a spot. And then as soon as you actually get into open water, he just cruises, man. He's so fast. Like, this is ridiculous. So fast. So you absolutely need a Chillette for water travel, because I don't know if anything flies this fast except some really high level stuff. And your ability to go between major spaces, like go between major islands, go between areas, get to like the sanctuary down here with Grisbolt early on. Any of these places that are far away, Chillette's one of the easiest ones to get and definitely going to help you out a ton. So, early mounts, I've even got Nightwing over here, so you could even capture him on this side too. Early mounts, you can either go with the deer or the wolf. For flying, Nightwing's going to be early, and then Grey Claw's like an eagle, pretty good one. And then for just swimming, nothing beats Chillette. So awesome. Also a dragon, so you've got some really unique attacks there, because dragon is different than most other things too. So it's got some nice benefits as well. So do not sleep on Chillette. Make sure you get them. When it comes to building at your base, the blue line is kind of a nudge. It might have to have like 50% of it in there, because you'll notice like this one specifically is kind of got a blue line running right through the middle of it. But enough of it's inside, and it's level enough that it technically counted with a few foundations under it, and I got it to turn blue and I hit click. Sometimes when it comes to building, they may look a little goofy, they may be a little weird, but if you can get them to eventually turn blue by twisting, turning, rotating, finding a level ground, maybe half in, half out, hanging off a ledge, there's some weird ways to build stuff, and you never quite know what's going to work. Tinker with stuff, and you might get more out of your base than you think. So that's one way to kind of do building stuff, is mess around with it, because it's not a perfect system, but it does what it can. Alright, so eventually you're going to get a glider, which is simple. It's like you jump, you glide, you fly around, pretty straightforward. But you also eventually get a grappling hook. Now, there's a fun little tweak, which seems they have not patched this out, and it's grapple gliding. So what you want to do is kind of aim down. Now, on PC, it's control, which is going to be like your dodge button, basically. And what you do is use that to cancel the glide, but then you keep the momentum of the grapple hook, and then you hit your kind of jump to glide. So we're going to grapple, glide, and then as soon as you glide, hit. As soon as you like roll, glide, and then you're going to be able to cover ground way faster. Same thing here. Aim a little bit down, get the momentum going, and then grab your glider. You're going to travel faster than you normally do. Now, some are going to be a little faster than others, but like the countdown goes, get the momentum going, and then start flying forward. You will fly much faster and farther than you would otherwise. So this is going to be a really big benefit at times to be able to get around, especially when you don't have like maybe a flying mount, or maybe your flying mount doesn't have the most stamina, or pick any number of reasons. It's just kind of one of those things that's going to help you, especially when your flying mount maybe doesn't have the most stamina. You can get really high, and your stamina's maybe pretty high. But at this point, you're like, I want to get, I'm trying to travel to like a relatively high point, so this is a little easier to show. So it's just kind of aiming down, and then what you're looking to try and do is, if you aim down at, say, this like bridge, get your momentum, control, and then glide. And then now you'll notice I can cover so much more ground, same stamina usage, turn a little bit, glide it over, aim it, and that is a jump there's no way in the world I would normally be able to make. And that's probably faster than a decent amount of flying mounts. And then now, if you want to use your flying mount to climb something else, you absolutely can. So grapple gliding, definitely something to get used to. And I promise you, you'll have a pretty good amount of fun with that. There's obviously a volcano region, there's a snowy mountain region, and then you've got kind of variations in between. Who knows what the end game stuff looks like at this point. But in the bottom, what you're going to see is you've got your health. I've got my shield, which is the blue gauge. That's something you'll unlock and be able to build up. Got your hunger gauge. Next to that, you've got your hot and cold meter. So I've got the three kind of blacked out, grayed out spots in the middle. Those are neutral. Those are safe for me. The left side is blue when it starts to get cold. The right side is hot when it starts to get too hot. Now, you're going to get some armor, like this stuff I've got right now. Cold and
What's
heat
up,
resistance
Ahmed? What's
level
up,
1
Carl?
bonuses. I put this on, and now you'll notice I've got 5 sections that are blacked out. If I get into the cold and hot, then I know those are going to be a little more extreme temperatures. Now, as you can see, the armor is going to help some, but what you'll notice is maybe I'm in the volcano region, maybe it's just so hot, my level 1 is not helping. But if I have an ice pal with me and I bring it out, you'll notice it tips me more towards the cold. So at that point, it would take 1, 2, 3, like 3 full notches and then 4 to actually move me into an uncomfortable place of warmth. Same thing happens if I switch over to my Ragnahawk. It's a fire pal, and that bumps me up, so in case I need to be a little warmer. So it's one of those things that if you are trying to go exploring and at some point you're just like, I'm going to go see what is in this direction and go as far as I can, you might run into some weird temperature stuff. Try and bring with you on some of those exploration trips both a hot and cold pal in case the temperatures, because sometimes it doesn't look like it should be as hot as it is, but it just is. And it's nice to have this balance out so it's not an issue. When you get some crazy armor and some crazy accessories that are going to give you like some ridiculous amount of, you know, resistance for hot and cold, yeah, it's probably going to be less of a factor, but in the mid game, early on, before you have all the best crazy stuff, this is a way to manage your temperatures, and, you know, maybe it's just one of those ways to manage some extreme temperatures if you get in over your head. Well, for a beginner's guide, I think this is a good place to kind of put a pin in things. You're going to establish your base, you're going to get some pals working for you, gather up some Reeses, work through your technology tree, and really work your way through. Work on the bases, get your incubator so you can start finding eggs and getting stuff out of those. Leveling up to metal so you can start using ingots, and then get your pelt armor and getting metal chests for more storage. There's a massive amount of progression in this game. Every single pal that you see, really try and catch one because there's so many saddles or assault rifle. There are some crazy things to all of these, and they're a ton of fun. Also over here, when you get to like the pal condenser, then you put copies of pals together to make them more powerful. Come down here, you've got lockpicking and the Ring of Mercy. This is one I would say for ancient technology. This is the one where I was able to get my attacks will take their health down to 1. This is going to help you start catching a lot more pals that are kind of around the brink of what you might be able to capture. Getting them down to 1 health makes it at least as easy as it possibly could be. So keep that one in mind. And then the breeding farm, that's where you're going to start pairing all these pals together. And then if you can put a cake over there and 2 different pals can make other pals, it's a way to make some very specific things that can be very beneficial. So for now, I think that's a good place to wrap it. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you learned something, drop a like below, leave a comment if you got questions, early beginners tips, things I might have not added. And if you got a bunch of other tips, I'm probably going to do an advanced tips video, best pals, some base locations, things like that. So more videos are coming from me. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. And if you did, subscribe, like, and follow. Find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, wherever. And thank you guys for watching. Have a good one. Hope to see you in the next one. And Chillit says bye.
Feel like your tooth sensitivity isn't severe enough to deal with? What if I told you Sensodyne has a fast and simple remedy? New Sensodyne Clinical Repair starts to repair sensitive areas of teeth after 60 seconds. I'm so excited to introduce this new product to patients. New Sensodyne Clinical Repair is absolutely amazing.
Does it still take you hours or even days to finalize major contracts? Stop the delays. With the DocuSign Intelligent Agreement Management Platform, you generate fully compliant, personalized agreements in seconds. Meet your new agreement partner at DocuSign.com.
I'm going to cover everything in this guide from the very basics all the way up to the most efficient way to make a raid army, and everything else in between like cakes, breeding helpers, and the best ways to pass things along. But it can't be a complete guide without starting at the very beginning. So if you already know the basics, you can just skip over the first section. Chapters are down below as always. Let's get into it. There are 2 items you can get and use separately before you even get into breeding. So let's start there. The egg incubator you can unlock at level 10, and the condenser you get at level 14. For the incubator, different size eggs will take different amounts of time. Small ones are very quick, under 5 minutes, and large ones can be pretty long, but you can always adjust this in your settings. Most people who have been playing a while just set this to 0. Incubation speed is affected by temperature. With the right temperature, you can get a 100% boost, so it's going to be 2 times as fast, and you will regularly find eggs in the wild, so you don't need to get into breeding to start using these. The condenser allows you to combine extra pals to boost their stats. It increases their attack, HP, and defense stat. It also improves their partner skill at each level, and it improves their work suitability at each level as well. This is probably the best use for this machine early on. You only need 4 pals to condense the first time, so it is very easy to do before you ever get into breeding, and it will help speed up your workers pretty significantly. The breeding farm is unlocked at level 19. The requirements to craft it are slightly different than previous versions, but it's still very easy to craft. It is very large. It takes up a lot of base space, so you're going to want to think about that ahead of time. You can assign any 2 pals as long as it's 1 male and 1 female, and you can throw them at it, or it is easiest just to use your monitor stand to assign them. The breed meter will fill up, and it won't produce any eggs unless there is a cake inside. Cakes can be made at the cooking pot or any higher tier cooking station, and there are a bunch of different ones which I will break down in another section. These farms put your pals in stasis, meaning they don't get tired, sick, or hungry, so you can pretty much just leave them here, do their thing with little managing. Also, cakes do not expire in here, which is really nice. The eggs will show up right on the farm, and you will have to pick them up manually. It holds 20 at a time. The meter will still continue to fill up, but it won't lay any more eggs until you remove 1, so you are going to have to come back every 20 eggs and pull some away. The formula for breeding is pretty simple, but it's really not that important to know. I will quickly tell you just in case you're curious. The game assigns a value to each pal, and when you combine them, it takes the average. And that average value is the resulting pal. Breeding the same pal together will always give you that pal back because of this. And I say it's not important because we have real heroes out there making things like the breeding calculators. There are multiple. I'm just going to point out the one that I'm typically using, and that's palworld.gg. There's nothing in-game that allows you to know what you are breeding, so these tools are pretty necessary until you actually start memorizing what does what. And then there's the breeding data, which I used and I got from the PalDB site, which I'll just show you the site on the screen now, in case you want to use that as well. Passive skills are one of the main reasons for breeding. The surgery table allows you to implant passives on any pal for some gold. However, with rainbow and world tier passives, they only come in the form of disposables. And something like Legend or some of the raid boss exclusives like Xenolord's Invader, those don't have implants. So while you can definitely get away without breeding for a lot of the passives, it is still pretty necessary for the best pals and when you are making a lot, like for a raid, fight, or a farm. So let me break it down. The passives the baby will get is determined by RNG. The game will give a chance at receiving 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the pooled passives of the parents. That's both parents' passives combined. Once that number is determined, it then gives another RNG roll to determine what additional passives you will get from all of the other passives in the game. This is just a brief explainer for those who are interested. The important thing to know is this. The best chance of passing your passives down to the baby is to make sure that you have the 4 that you want split between 2 parents in any way. Then no other passives on either. It doesn't matter if it's any of these combinations. Duplicates also do not matter. It's combining the passives into one pool, and it does not add the same passive twice. So with any of these setups, you will have a 10% chance at getting all 4 passives.
Roommates are hard, but getting Allstate renters is easy, because you can get a quote in seconds by answering only 3 questions, starting at $5 a month. Get a quote at allstate.com.
Now we gotta go help people customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Mimi, where's the golf cart? There it is.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
IVs are hidden values that give pals an increase to attack, defense, and HP, except they're not hidden anymore. When you use the ability glasses, you can actually see the stats. At 100 IVs, you have a 30% increase to stats. It is absolutely worth your effort to max out these IVs because that is a pretty significant increase. Passing them down is pretty straightforward. You have a 30% chance to get it from dad, a 30% chance to get it from mom. You have a 40% chance of getting a random one, which means it makes a pretty big difference when you're using 2 parents with maxed out IVs. That's going to give you a 60% chance at getting another 100 on the baby. You can also increase IVs through fruit, and I will talk about that more specifically in the last section when I talk about putting this all together. Passing down active skills is another really important aspect of breeding because there are some skills in the game that are extremely strong that cannot be gotten from a skill fruit. So here's how it's done. The baby has a 50% chance of receiving 1 skill. from the parent. So the game just decides, is it getting a skill or is it not getting a skill? If it does get a skill, it's going to be pulling it from the pool of both parents' skills. In early access, this was from all of their skills. In 1.0, it changed to just the selected skills. So to give the skill that you want the best chance of being passed down, you want it to be the only skill selected between the two parents. Pretty straightforward. Some skills cannot be passed down though. They are species exclusives. To breed, you will need cakes, and you have some options. The first option is not an unlock, it is just found in the cooking menu of the cooking pot. In the endgame, you will likely buy most of these ingredients, even though they did increase the price of milk and eggs, a lot more expensive than it used to be. It's still eventually the best way to get these ingredients, except for honey. You cannot buy honey. For honey, you're gonna need a bee. You're gonna put them on a ranch. This will probably be your biggest bottleneck of a resource, so it's always a good idea to have them running as much as possible, even when you're not breeding. Up until you get enough gold in order to get the other ingredients, your best options are also going to be the farm. Milk comes from mozzarella, eggs come from chickpeas, wheat and berries you can make from crops. Once you start getting into more advanced breeding, you will have more options for cakes. At level 30, you're going to unlock the mushroom cake. The mushroom cake says it gives increased talents, but this does multiple things. It increases IVs. So if we go back to how passing IVs works, you can get it from either the parents or a random one. With this cake, when you do get it from the parents, it increases it by 2 to 3. So it doesn't just give you the same as the parents like a regular cake, but now it's giving a better one. This is huge for breeding up IVs. It's still much faster to just use fruits, but previously it was insanely brutal to try and do this. These cakes make it more possible to actually be able to breed up your IVs. They also appear to increase the chance of getting an alpha pal, and it appears to be more likely to transfer passives as well, just to a lesser degree than the legendary cake. The veggie cake is very straightforward. It gives you 2 eggs at once, simply put. The extravagant veggie cake will increase the chance of mutations and increase the talents. So it does what the mushroom cake is doing, but it also gives a 3 to 4 times increase in chance of getting a mutated egg. You can get mutated eggs from regular cakes as well, but this significantly increases your chance. Then we have special cakes. This one increases the chance of inheriting multiple passives. And it's not just by a little bit, it is by a lot. A regular perfect setup will give you a 10% chance of passing all your passives. In just one batch hatch, you can see how many of these got the perfect passives passed along. It's absolutely an essential cake for raid army breeding. Also, it appears to increase the chance of getting the parents' IVs. And it definitely increases how many skills you can get. So you can also use this cake to pass down multiple active skills at once. Normally, you only get 1 skill from either parent, but this will make it possible to get up to 6, and I believe actually 7 because you can get an extra RNG one. By far the best cake, the one you're going to want to be using for late game, and probably as soon as you can get the ingredients for it. Mutations occur with regular cakes at approximately 0.5% to a 1% rate, and they'll happen with the mutation-specific cakes at about a 3% rate. It will give you what the game considers a better pal based on the breeding value. It will give you 2 rainbow passives from 2 separate pools. It will give you IVs from 90 to 100. It is a guaranteed alpha and a guaranteed high-level skill for that element type. I did testing and a more thorough breakdown on mutations in another video, so this is just the summary. Check that one out if you want to know more details. Breeding can feel pretty slow, but there are a ton of ways to speed up the process, so let's talk about them. Different incubators work a little bit differently. The first upgrade you can get is the electric incubator. This will keep it in the perfect temperature, and it will also increase the speed, even if it doesn't say that. It is 25% faster than the regular one when the regular one has 100%, so at its best. The downside is it's expensive and it is costing you electricity. The large incubator does not use electricity. It can hold multiple eggs, but it is slightly slower than the previous electric one. It runs at the same speed as the basic one if the basic one was at 100%. But for this one, you don't have to worry about temperature, so it's always going to be at its fastest speed. Then there's the large electric incubator, is the fastest one yet. It works 50% faster than the regular one, but it also requires electricity. Then there is the hatchery, which is a very late game unlock, but this one will make your eggs nearly instant for incubation. It also acts as a breeding farm, so it is an all-in-one, space-saving, time-saving, ultimate breeding machine.
How to find the perfect pet sitter in 4 easy steps. Step 1, go to rover.com or download the Rover app. Step 2, browse profiles, read verified reviews, and message sitter.
There are some really useful pals to consider when breeding that are going to help with the process. First, Broloha, who will help you get faster egg production time. Having one in your base will increase increase speeds by 20% at level 1 and up to 50% at level 5. Then when it's time to pick those eggs up, you have Grintail, who will give you an increased chance of getting 2 eggs. This does work on mutation eggs. And then we have Broncherry and Broncherry Aqua. These pals will give you a higher chance at getting an alpha. And even though it does say does not stack because they're different species, technically it does stack. Meaning you can get an alpha pal every single time with these 2 pals in your party and leveled up just a little bit. You can combine these pals with Grintail. So when you pick up eggs, you will regularly be getting doubles and they will now be alphas every time. And you'll be able to see this indicator here when it is telling you that an egg was changed by your Broncherry. So once you do have these pals, it is wise to always keep them in your party once you are collecting eggs. And when you take them over to the incubator, you have this new pal Dynamoth who will give an increase to incubation time. Besides pals, there are also a couple passives that are going to help with breeding. Babysitter will give an increase to egg production by 30% and incubation speeds by 30%, while on a pal who's at your base. Then there's Philanthropist, which gives a 100% increase to breeding speeds. This one is different from Babysitter. It needs to be on the pal who is actually on the breeding farm, whereas Babysitter just needs to be on a pal who is at your base. Then you also have Nocturnal, which can be added at the surgery table to keep your pals breeding all night long. Not all of these things stack together. Shout out to Pal Professor for testing this one out. If you aren't familiar with his stuff, definitely check out his channel. He's easily the best tester out there for Pal World. Braloha and Babysitter do not stack, which means it never makes sense to put Babysitter on Braloha, or even have them on the farm at the same time. Babysitter sort of acts as a replacement for Braloha. At level 1 and 2, it is better than Braloha, so if you have just one Braloha, it still makes sense to use Babysitter. But for endgame breeding, Braloha will still be your go-to pal to have at a breeding base. Philanthropist does stack, so if you have 2 pals with that on it, it will give a 200% increase if they're both on the same farm. Also stacks with Braloha, which means the best endgame breeding combo for egg production time is 2 Philanthropists and 1 level 5 Braloha. No Babysitter required. Babysitter does stack for the incubation rate though, so it does make sense to have Babysitter at your base if you are incubating. And it does make sense to put Babysitter on your Dynamoth because it stacks with that as well. So I'll try to summarize all that just to make it a little less confusing. A few other things I want to mention very quickly that can help the overall breeding process. One of the best ways to start adding rainbow passes to your pals is by going fishing. Using the master fishing spots, you're guaranteed 1 rainbow passive, so it is a good way to farm these up, and you can start breeding them into the pal that you're going after. Sex changes are super useful. Now you only ever need 2 pals to begin breeding because you can simply change the sex of one at the surgery table. And some pals are dominantly one sex, like Bella Noir rarely comes as a male, so it is really helpful. Dr. Braun was the old school method to get passives. He can give you a random chance at a new passive on a pal, but it is RNG based and it's only once per day. It's not an efficient method at all in 1.0. Then there's Yakumo. When you have passives on Yakumo and you go capturing pals, you will get an increased chance of capturing one with those rainbow passives. This used to be a go-to method, but once again, since the implants, it's much less useful now. And this does not work on the special rainbow passives like Legend either. But it is an option, so I'm mentioning it here. One last thing I need to point out, just in case I forgot to mention it anywhere else in this video, boss pals cannot be bred into. Neither can legendaries. The boss pal thing though is new to 1.0. I've seen a lot of people wondering why they can't get an Orsurk or a Saline anymore. It is because they can only be bred with themselves. However, you can find them in the world, so you will have to capture these boss pals. If you want them, you won't be able to breed. So to start your breeding line with them, you're going to have to capture 2, use the sex change if needed, then you can start breeding a bunch for condensing.
Hey Mom, now that I have an after-school job, I think I want to buy a drum kit.
Okay, Rockstar. Let's look at your account.
When kids start making money, Chase has easy-to-use tools and expert bankers to help them learn how to manage it.
And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh, and maybe some noise-canceling headphones for you.
Aw, you've thought of everything.
Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Account subject to approval. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Breeding is mostly RNG, but there are ways to remove that RNG and speed up the process. First, implants. These are a way to add those passives that you want very easily. Once you have the implant, you can add it to any pal for some gold at the surgery table. It starts you out with some standard passives as implants. You can buy more at the arenas or the bounty officers. Then you can also get disposable top tier implants that are one-time use. These are a bit harder to get early game. The absolute best source is going to be the endgame recycler. They're actually pretty easy once you get this thing. And it is a much faster way to get passives compared to relying on RNG through breeding. It's so much easier just to use implants that I almost recommend not trying to super breed until you have access to the ancient relic recycler. But you can if you want to, it's just going to be a tedious process. Power fruits exist so that you can increase your pal's IVs without relying on breeding. IV maxing is probably the hardest to do with breeding, or at least it used to be, so these power fruits are definitely essential if you're trying to get those IVs all the way up. It will increase the IV by 10 for each fruit. These ones you can get in a lot of ways now. You can get them at boss fights, supply drops, ancient relics. You can buy them from the metal merchant or the arena. You can craft them. So they aren't that difficult to get once you reach a little bit later in the game. And because of all these options, it almost always makes sense to use these instead of trying to breed up your IVs, even if you're using the mushroom cakes. Skill fruits are another way to speed up the process instead of relying on RNG. These exist all over the world, and you can also grow them yourself. Most attacks in the game have skill fruits, so typically you'll want to get these fruits, plant a skill fruit tree if you are looking to add a certain skill to like a raid army, because you're going to need quite a few. But if you are just looking to get a skill on one single pal, the RNG doesn't make it all that difficult to do. So compared to passing along passives or IVs, it is probably easiest to pass along a skill that you want. But if you have the fruit, it's still easier because you could just use it on a pal and it will save you some breeding. First, if you're just trying to get yourself a stronger pal from the early game pals, it is quite simple. Use an online tool to help. The one that I'm using in this example is palworld.gg, but I'll be honest, it has been ruthless with ads and pop-ups, so I don't exactly endorse it, but it is pretty helpful. Any tool is going to follow the same calculations though, so they'll all work the same. With tools like these, you can simply enter your target pal, then all the pals that you have, and it will show you the path you need to take. For example, with just an Amione and Arsox, two fairly early game pals, you can breed all the way up to an Eidolon Ignis. It takes 43 steps, but this just shows that it is possible. Likely, you're going to have more pals in your pal box, and you're not going to need this many steps. Well, let's say you want to make that new pal stronger. Say, for example, you just caught a Frostallion and you want to pass the Legend passive to your new Eidolon Ignis. I know that Frostallion cannot be bred into Eidolon Ignis, thanks to this chart, so I'll go one step down and check the parents. I can see that Frostallion has a bunch of combos to get to the parent. I'll pick the one that's best for me, or the one that I know I have pals of. If I didn't have any of these pals, I could check the other parent, or go and capture one of them. But I see that it pairs with Anubis. I have Anubis already, so I'll use that. Now I can pass my Legend passive to Eidolon by pairing these two. It didn't take long, just the fourth pal has Legend on it, but it also has some junk passives. And for the sake of making my life a little easier for future breeding, I'm going to keep going and see if I can get one without these junk passives. Not much later, I got one with only Legend. I could keep going still and try for better IVs, but I am happy with this, and there are better ways to improve IVs, so I'm going to take this one. Now I'll combine it with my Suzaku, who I already had from breeding up to Eidolon Ignis. And there we go. Just the first few, I already passed that Legend to my Eidolon Ignis. I don't care about the other passives because I'm going to be adding my own, but I will check IVs to make sure it's not completely worthless. I'm happy with the IVs, so I'll take this to the surgery table and add the other passives I want. If you don't have these rainbow passives, you can still pass them down the exact way I just showed you with Legend. It might take a while depending on which pal has it and how far you have to breed it up, but it is possible. However, by the time that you need a pal with all rainbow passives, you'll probably have the Ancient Relic Recycler, where you can get disposable implants. It is so much easier to do this with implants, but you definitely can do it with breeding.
There's enough needless nonsense in the world already. Your phone plan shouldn't add to it. Verizon's new Simplicity plan cuts down on the nonsense in your life. Now there's just one plan, one price. $30 a line per month, even for a single line. And everyone gets our best 5G network. It's a phone plan designed to do exactly what a phone plan is supposed to do. Isn't that a lot simpler? Switch today at Verizon.com or at your nearest store. For new customers, $30 per line includes auto pay and switch discount. Additional taxes, fees, and terms apply. Unlimited data is restricted to on-device smartphone usage. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds.
Let's take it one step further and build a raid army. Now that I have some extra pals from trying to pass my legend, I'll go through the pal box and I'll pick out 2 parents for my raid army. Not going to be using the one that I just made. I want as few passives as I can find, and as high of IVs as I can find as well. The 2 best from the ones that I have are good enough. 1 extra passive and fairly high IVs. I could keep breeding to get better parents if I only got junk ones, but I have 2 good ones that I can use. First, I'm going to add these passives at the surgery table. Remember, all 4 passives you want split between the 2 parents in any way, and no other passives. You can't delete passives, I don't think you can, but you can replace them. So it's another benefit to choosing ones with fewer junk passives. Now I can replace the ones I don't want with passives that I do want. And I can end up with the perfect combo, the 4 passive split between the 2 parents. Next, I want to add some skills to my raid army. So I'm going to take my skill fruits and I'm going to add them to both parents in the active slot. And one last step, I'm going to max out the IVs of both parents before breeding with fruits. With this setup, I have a 10% chance of getting all 4 passives passed along. A much smaller chance of getting everything, so all the IVs too. That will take some time, but with the new legendary cake, that completely changes. It makes passing all this stuff incredibly easy. As you can see, with just 1 batch, I got loads of raid-ready pals. This in the past would literally take hundreds of hours. It is lightning fast now, thanks to implants, thanks to fruits, and thanks to these new legendary cakes. You can choose to min-max and only pick the ones with perfect IVs, or you can just use whatever you get. But either way, you're going to have a bunch of extras that you can now use to condense your raid army. So there you go, raid armies in literal minutes. All right, that's it for this one. I appreciate you watching. If you found this one helpful, the best way you can show your support is simply by leaving a comment. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Yo, what up, Breezy? Good morning, Ohio. Ohio. ちょっと what? Hey, what? Maybe.
This is how my employees clock in today.
This little thing has helped my business save tens of thousands of dollars.
Remember how we used to clock in?
Yeah, this is way easier. I literally.
For many of us, we've started to put hundreds of hours into Palworld 1.0. And in this video, I want to go through some of my advanced tips of things that I've learned as I traversed into the from the mid game to the late game, and things that can help you not get caught up in those early bottlenecks. So in my typical fashion of running the knowledge of my videos, it's a little difficult here with a list. So go ahead and check out the chapters below and just simply navigate to anything that interests you the most. Maybe you know most of the things I talk about, but you know what? Maybe the guild chest thing interests you or whatever it is. Just go ahead and jump ahead. But I would say the things that really stand out in this video, make sure you're doing expeditions, especially as you push more towers. If you find yourself stalling out, especially as it comes to technology points and investing in things, make sure you're pushing towers. If you're level 50 and you've only done 3 towers, go do more towers. Don't think of it as the game ending sooner. Think of it as you unlocking more of the game to play, and the stuff that you haven't finished is just open for replayability in different ways that you can do it. And once you've done that too, make sure you really focus on research to make expeditions deliver more resources for you and to make them go quicker. But in addition to that, help out with all of the workability, all the many things that research can do. If you've been sleeping on research, it's time now to start really get cranking on it. But that's too long didn't watch this entire video. If that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to go ahead and shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. But the first thing we're going to talk about is related to fishing. And that first tip I want to talk about is the fishing pond. Now, this is just the very first fishing pond that you get access to. If you type in fishing, you get this one at level 31. But the large fishing pond is really the big star here, because this is going to get you ancient and soul spheres. It's going to get you coralum, the actual resource you need to even build this thing. It gets you a lot of things that you can have passively growing within your base without having to go out with powerful fishing magnets and do tons of salvaging. You just simply load this thing with a ton of deluxe bait, which is this guy right here, and you put 100 deluxe bait in this, and then go ahead and put like a Nubis or any one of your high not hand job whoa, what's it called, oh man, handiwork pals on this thing, and you will get tons of stuff. So if I go ahead, this is just, again, this is the medium one, so this gave me all these pals. So we got a Serpent with service minded, Finistrider here with burly body, Apollo Pup. So we got these guys that are now in my party here, so I can take advantage of this one for movement speed while mounted on snow, which is fun. And collect item. So we've got all these items. This is, again, the medium one, so there's not tons of awesome stuff here for the late game, but for the mid game, as you're coming into locations, this is nice stuff to just kind of passively have growing in your base. It takes nothing to make the high quality bait and nothing to make deluxe bait by comparison to actually going out and salvaging and getting all the resources that you need from doing a lot of that deep stuff. So you go ahead, press over here, I'd press the medium fish silhouette, and you just crank this up. Hey, just do 10 of them and go to town. Putting 100 into this when you first log in to go do a bunch of stuff, and then putting a ton of this in right when you log out is really a great way to get good passive resource generation for a lot of stuff that you won't even get until you get to the world tree. I bring this up in so many of my videos, but make sure you're condensing your pals, especially if they are your base pals or pals that you like to use a lot during combat. You're going to find that you'll hit a bit of a wall here in your productivity if you don't do this to your base pals. So let me go ahead and use some just base pals that I've got. I mean, by base in this case, I mean basic for my base pals. Let me go ahead. Okay, so Jolt Hog is a good example here. So this Jolt Hog has Lucky, so it increases its the star rating here. So we want to be able to increase that as much as we can by condensing other Jolt Hogs that we don't want. Or this another lucky one here that gives me a whole extra star. The reason behind this is twofold. One, it increases, you can see right there, it's going to increasing his electric generation here. That's the biggest thing that it's going to do when it comes to a pal that you're putting into your base. It's going to increase their work suitability. Now, when there's multiple skills here, it increases that work suitability at seemingly kind of like, I think it just kind of goes from left to right. Of course, why would I have more? That would be just absolute sham of an idea to having this really explanatory video. Now, the other point to this though is that this helps out with your pal's partner skills. Oh, that's the other guy here. So what is a pal partner skill? It's those skills that you passively get for having the pal active. So if I come over here and go into my party and we go take a look at Lunaris, by increasing Lunaris's rank, I'm going to increase her carry capacity, or their carry capacity. So this is going to work twofold for me. Like I said, I'm going to increase a work suitability skill every time we get one of these tiers. So this is probably going to go handiwork and then gathering and then transporting and then maybe work in some sort of rotation. But the big thing is that it's going to increase also their partner skill. This helps a lot for someone like Lunaris that I'm going to use personally for my own carry capacity. But maybe you have some base pals that can help you out with increasing skills across the board or helping with mitigating food depletion. All those get helped out by simply upgrading their tier. Let me go give you an actual practical example here. So the details on Woolipop, I upgraded it to tier 2 to help it so that it reduces hunger depletion rate of base pals rather than just the base 10% to now 14%. So this gives me a better longevity of food on my base. So doing this is really crucial. Doing it for your base is crucial. Doing it for the pals that you keep in your party is crucial. Yakumo here, I've upgraded his just simply to tier 2. I've got a whole ton more of these I gotta inject into him. But this is gonna help me be able to duplicate Demon God, Diamond Body, Nimble, and Ferocious into any of the new pals that I go ahead and capture. So make sure you are condensing. I have tons of pals that I keep like this because I do a lot of content and I want to be able to show that off in content. But you should not have anywhere near this level of rampant extra palage. Either butcher them for their resources or condense them for the tier bonuses that it's going to
Butcher them for their
Butcher them if you're not gonna
resources,
use
jeez.
it, condense them if you're going to use it. And a quick one here, and this might seem like a kind of a no-brainer, but use your party pal presets. It just saves you so much trouble. This way you don't have to sift through. Since you cannot search by name, you can use the presets to say, hey, you know what? I always want to be able to jump to my merchant preset or my logging or my ore harvesting one or my fishing one. You can just jump to them very quickly by having these presets. Like here's my breeding one, the Eggoning. Or here's one I use for raid. I swap out this character. Whatever it is, however you want to set these up, make sure that you set up your presets. And I'm going to talk about our presets more as we get further into this. But what you'll want to also do with presets is, so let's say I'm going to use this preset. Use, great, cool. Where'd that go? Sometimes it kind of gets a little, sometimes, yeah, that stuff gets a little messed up. Like Hell Zephyr can't populate because he's in my base right now. I'll just put another one on here for the sake of the video. What I encourage you to do, in addition to setting up your presets, is in the lower right corner, you can see it says favorite. It's M button on the keyboard. Set all of your presets to 1, 2, or 3. Like, hey, all the presets that I've got, I'm going to make them all. Go ahead and overwrite this just for the sake of the video. Use.
Yeah, yep. No, you gotta push it. Apartment hunting is hard, but getting Allstate renters is easy. Because you can get a quote in seconds by answering only 3 questions. Starting at $5 a month. Get a quote at allstate.com.
What if you could make a song using only your voice? Let's start with the drums. I'm gonna hit drums and click cover. Yes. This is good. Okay, perfect. I feel like the song needs a rhythm guitar. Dun, 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 dun. Changing it to guitar. I'm gonna type in rhythm guitar.
I'm going to make sure they're all set to 1. And this makes it so that when we do our next section, it's easier. Okay, could you? Thank you. It makes it easier for me to find these pals in a situation where I exclusively want to find them. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean about expeditions. Expeditions are a huge boon. In the beginning, they don't feel like they do anything. You're like, whatever, I'm going to do whatever the hell this tells me to do. No. As you get later into the game, especially these lighter towers, especially these two, look at the items on the right. Spheres, a bunch of resources, fragments for raids, and ancient civilization cores. Ancient civilization cores you can get from raids, from this, and there's one other resource, I think it's salvaging. But this is a great way to get, especially Corlamore, dude. Corlamore is a pain in the ass to get. So being able to just harvest these all very easily, all of these relics that you're going to use for the later portion of the game, you just keep using the resource system that comes here with the expeditions. You go ahead, you click this button, and you can press auto assign. And this is just going to go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to take all of these pals, I'm going to throw their total firepower into this. It's going to give you 113% reward, and it's going to take 42 minutes. So 42 minutes, you set this right when you start playing and you're about to go do a mission. Like, hey, I'm going to go do, I'm going to go explore a new area. I'm going to go knock out a couple towers. Well, that's going to take you longer than 42 minutes. You might as well send off all of your pals that you don't need onto a mission. Or you're going to log off for the night, go ahead and do this. Assuming you're on a persistent server. I'm on a persistent server, so I can do that. But before we kind of end that, I'm going to cancel this all. I'm going to press this, Expedition Exclusion Settings. What this does is it now puts me into a mode where I can press buttons like this, and it makes it so that these pals are not going to go on any expeditions ever. This is what it comes around to, what I was talking about earlier, where now we're in this screen here, right?
Okay, guys, I'm gonna head out.
Confirmed,
I'll see you guys later.
You know we're in the screen where we can configure this. We press source.